Hello friends, welcome to Sai Academy. Hope you all are good and doing well. In this present video lecture, we will be discussing about the Gauss's law in the electrostatics and its various applications. Before that, we need to understand what is the solid angle. For that, let us first understand what is a plane angle. So, a plane angle theta made up of the lines from 2 points meeting at a vertex is defined by the arc length of a circle subtended by the lines and by the radius of that circle. So this is the arc and this is the radius of any circle. So the plane angle in two dimension will be given as theta is equal to arc by radius. The unit of this plane angle is radian. This plane angle in full circle is equal to 2 pi radians. Similarly, solid angle is the analogous in three dimension of this plane angle, and a solid angle omega is made up of all the lines from a closed curve meeting at a vertex is defined by the surface area of sphere subtended by the lines, all the lines, and by the radius of that sphere. So the solid angle will be defined as the area divided by the square of the radius. The unit of the solid angle is the steradian and it is a dimensionless quantity. The solid angle in a full sphere is equal to 4 pi. You can see that this sphere and this is some area on the surface of the sphere is made up of the number of lines and that form a closed curve, and this solid angle is defined as I told area per unit square of the radius. So in this figure ds and ds prime subtend the same solid angle, and since total surface area of the sphere is 4 pi r square, therefore the total solid angle will be equal to 4 pi r square by r square is equal to 4 pi. Since ds is the surface area normal to which makes an angle theta with the direction of the radius vector r from the point O, therefore the projection of the surface ds perpendicular to the radius vector r will be equal to ds cos theta. Therefore, the solid angle d omega will be equal to ds cos theta divided by r square. Now, Let us start electric flux and Gauss theorem. Electric flux. Michael Faraday, in his experiment, he took a pair of concentric metallic spheres, the outer one of which consisted of the two hemispheres that could be firmly clamped together. And also, he had some insulating material known as the dielectric to occupy the entire volume between the concentric spheres. So, in his experiment, he followed the following steps. The first one is the equipment dismantled, the inner sphere was given a known positive charge Q. Second step, the hemispheres were then clamped together around the charged sphere with about 2 centimeters of dielectric material filled between them. Third, the outer sphere was discharged by connecting it to the ground. And fourth, the outer space was separated carefully using tools made up of insulating material in order not to disturb the induced charge on it, and the negative induced charge on each hemisphere was measured. Suppose this is the inner sphere and this is the outer sphere. The radius of inner sphere is A and the radius of outer sphere is B. Then Faraday found that the total charge on the outer sphere was equal in magnitude to the original charge placed on the inner sphere. And this was true regardless of the dielectric material separating the two spheres. He concluded that there was some sort of displacement from the inner sphere to the outer sphere which was independent of the medium. Faraday's experiment showed that a larger positive charge on the inner sphere induced a correspondingly larger negative charge on the outer sphere, leading to a direct proportionality between the electric flux and the charge on the inner sphere. Further, Gauss, by his mathematical derivation, gave his famous Gauss law or Gauss theorem, which states that the surface integral of the normal component of electric field E over any closed surface in an electrostatic field equals 1 by epsilon naught times the total or net charge contained in a volume enclosed by the surface. That is, surface integral E dot ds is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times q. Suppose this is the inner sphere and this is the outer sphere. The radius of inner sphere is A and radius of outer sphere is b. Then Faraday found that the total charge on the outer sphere was equal in magnitude to the original charge placed on the inner sphere. And this was true regardless of the dielectric material separating the two spheres. He concluded that there was some sort of displacement from the inner sphere to the outer sphere which was independent of the medium. Faraday's experiment showed that a larger positive charge on the inner sphere induced a correspondingly larger negative charge on the outer sphere, leading to a direct proportionality between the electric flux and the charge on the inner sphere. Further, Gauss, by his mathematical derivation, gave his famous Gauss law or Gauss theorem, which states that the surface integral of the normal component of electric field E over any closed surface in an electrostatic field equals 1 by epsilon naught times the total or net charge contained in a volume enclosed by the surface. That is, surface integral E dot ds is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times Q. To derive the Gauss theorem, let us consider a single positive point charge Q surrounded by a closed surface of arbitrary shape as shown in this figure. The electric field intensity at every point of the surface is directed radially outwards from this positive point charge. Now let us consider a small area ds of the surface for which E can be considered to have the same magnitude and direction. If theta be the angle between E and outward normal to the surface at any point of this area, the electric flux is equal to E dot ds, that is equal to En ds, where En is equal to E cos theta. Therefore, E cos theta ds. Now, since electric field due to point charge Q at any distance r can be given by E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by r square. Therefore, this electric flux phi can be written as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by r square cos theta ds. Now further, since previously we defined the solid angle which is given by d omega is equal to ds cos theta by r square, Therefore, substituting this value, phi is equal to d omega into q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught. Now, if the surface is continuous, we can integrate this equation over the entire closed surface. So we will get for the entire surface E dot ds is equal to q by 4 pi epsilon naught integral over surfaces d omega. Now, since we know that for the total solid angle surrounding the charge q is equal to 4 pi, therefore this reduces to q by 4 pi epsilon naught into 4 pi, which is surface integral E dot ds is equal to q by 4 pi epsilon naught into 4 pi, that is equal to q by epsilon naught. Therefore, we get E dot ds for the whole area is equal to q by epsilon naught. Further, if the point charge of consideration is negative, then field E will be radially inward, and in that case angle theta will be greater than 90 degree, and hence E cos theta will be negative. Therefore, surface integral will become negative, that is flux will be negative. If the closed surface doesn't enclose any charge, then in that case the flux of E will be equal to 0. Therefore, the equation E dot ds is true for any sign and value of the charge. Again, if there are several point charges q1, q2, q3, qn are enclosed by the surface, then the total electric field E will be given by the superposition of the electric field due to individual charges, and each charge subtends a full solid angle 4 pi. In that case, the flux over whole surface can be given by 1 by epsilon naught into summation I is equal to 1 to n q I. This result can also be generalized in case of a continuous charge distribution, and then in that case the electric flux over the whole area can be given as 1 by epsilon naught rho dV. For this equation, electric flux can be stated as the outward flux of electric field across a closed surface equals 1 by epsilon naught times the net charge contained in the volume enclosed by the surface. Now the differential form of Gauss's theorem can be obtained by using the Gauss divergence theorem, which states that surface integral for any field f over surface S can be written in terms of volume integral of the divergence of that vector field enclosing volume V. So using this Gauss divergence theorem, we can get this surface integral E dot ds is equal to divergence of E dv is equal to 1 by epsilon naught volume integral rho dv, which implies the integral del dot E minus rho by epsilon naught dv is equal to 0. Since volume is arbitrary, therefore the integrand must be equal to 0. That is, this must be equal to 0. Therefore del dot E minus rho by epsilon naught is equal to 0. That is, divergence of E is equal to rho by epsilon naught. This is the differential form of the Gauss theorem. Friends, this is for now. Thanks for watching the video lecture. Since this video is becoming large, so we will discuss the application of Gauss's law in the next upcoming video lecture. Till then, stay tuned, and if you like this video lecture, share it with your friends and family members. And if you are first time watching this video,